Okay, so hello, welcome to The Art of Being Alone, which when I suggested that title felt sort of less, less intense than it feels after 2 weeks of isolation. But in today's chat, we are going to talk about kind of two sides of the current situation and the fact that we're all now working from home. So we're going to look at the actual working part of that, so how you work from home, how you manage a team from home, how you create culture from home, and then also the mental health side of it. So actually right now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm finding it really hard to concentrate. I'm finding it very hard to settle to any piece of work. I'm finding myself feeling sort of a little bit both obsessed and terrified of the news. So we'll look at actually how you manage that pattern as well. Now, a couple of things. I am going to do Q&A at the end, so I'll talk for about half an hour and then we'll do kind of 15 minutes or so of Q&A. I love Q&A. It is absolutely my favourite bit of any talk, and I am a complete oversharer. So you should have a Q&A box that you can type questions into. Please do put your questions in there or in the chat if you can't find the Q&A box. And we will, if they're relevant to what I'm talking about at the time, that's fine. I'll try and answer them as I go. Otherwise, I'll do a proper Q&A piece at the end. And then you can ask me absolutely anything. So if you want to ask about anything to do with mental health, if you want to ask about anything to do with money, anything to do with managing not just your working team but your home team, all of that, please, if you want to know what I'm doing in isolation, like I said, total oversharer, so very, very happy to come and talk to you about all of that. So I want to tell you a little bit, just to begin with, about how I came to be somebody who works from home. So as you might know, I'm a freelance broadcaster and journalist, which means that I work for lots and lots of people. But prior to that, I worked for The Guardian for about 5 years, 6 years. I always slightly lose track, about 6 years. And I had a bit of a unique working pattern with them. So when I was working for The Guardian, it was during the period when everyone was talking about how do we change working culture. So how do we enable flexible working? How do we enable parents to have more balanced lives? If we enable parents to have more balanced lives, what does that then mean for the rest of the staff, etc., etc. And within this, I sort of started to realize actually my working life wasn't the healthiest life that I could have for me. And a couple of things happened that meant that became apparent. So the first one was that my department went through a restructure. I found it very, very stressful, ended up nearly having a kind of burnout period. And in order to come back to that, I had to really look at how I worked and what my working patterns were. And I noticed a couple of things. So the first thing I noticed was that while I'd always thought of myself as a kind of evening worker, somebody who works best after lunch, not very good before 11 o'clock, when I started to really monitor my energy patterns and really look at when I was most awake, when I was most alert, when I got the most done, what I discovered, which horrified me, was that actually I was my most productive from about 6:30 to 9:30 in the morning. So if I literally woke up, grabbed my laptop and started working, I could get basically a whole day's work done in those 3 hours. But what would happen was I would wake up at kind of 6:37ish, I'd mooch around the house a little bit, I'd get dressed, get out of the house, and then get on the tube and have to commute for 45 minutes. And that 45-minute commute, even if I got a seat, absolutely sapped my energy. So I just ended up completely and utterly exhausted, and I would turn up at work with just no desire to do anything whatsoever. And it would take me about then 2 hours of being at work to bring that energy level back up again. And largely I was doing that through a mix of caffeine and sugar, which is also a nice way to do it, but not the best way to do it. So actually I went to my boss and I said, something that I've really noticed is that my working pattern isn't really working for how my energy flows. And the other thing is that actually I've really noticed that on a Monday, when I've had a couple of days off work, I've got loads of energy, I've got loads of ideas, I'm really excited and enthused for everything. My energy levels are really up, I can get lots done, and I want to work quite long hours. So I'm actually quite I'm still engaged, I'm still active at about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening, so I'm still working. But then over the course of the week, that gradually tails down to on a Friday, where basically I was turning up to the office, reading the paper and going home again. And I was really honest with my boss, and I said, this is what's going on. I want to be really clear with you, you know, like, when you get me on a Friday, I am not the most productive person in the office, probably the least productive person in the office. And I think that there is a way that this could be better for both of us. And so I suggested to her that what I wanted to do was work 4 days on contracted hours. So what that basically meant was that rather than my hours being, according to my contract, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, they would be 8 till 6, Monday to Thursday. I think it was actually 8 till 5:30, it worked out like that, but basically 8 till 6, Monday to Thursday. And what that meant was that actually I would work really, really hard, probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, not so much, but, you know, still doing something. And then I would have Friday off. And that extra 3-day weekend just transformed how much energy I had for my life. So it meant that I went into work on a Monday, really excited, really enthused about it. It meant that I had a day where I actually just caught up on things like my washing, my cleaning. I went and did a nice yoga class. I had a day to myself. And because I switched my hours, rather than just saying I'm going to go down to 4 days a week, I'm going to do longer hours. And the argument I made for that, by the way, was that I was already doing those hours, I just wasn't being paid for them. Because I switched my hours, I didn't take a pay cut. And I know everyone's now like, oh my God, can I please go do this, my boss? Please do. You have a right enshrined in law to work in a, quote, flexible manner, or to ask to work in a flexible manner. But the thing that's really important that I want you to take away from this is that actually we all work differently. We all have different working needs. And the most important thing we can do for our mental health right now is work out what those needs are and how we get them met. So to start with, I want you to grab pen and a piece of paper, and I just want you to jot down 3 to 5 things that you need in order to be productive at work. And now these 3 to 5 might be very different at the moment, because obviously we're all working from home, so it might be like silence, a space of my own, somebody not pulling at my trousers the whole time, whatever it is. It might be company, it might be other people, it might be a coffee, it might be 20 minutes of work followed by a short break. It might be that you work better in the mornings, or you get more done at the start of the week or the end of the week. Whatever it is, this is not, you don't have to get it perfect right now, but just 3 to 5 things that you need in order to be productive. I'll give you just a minute for that. Jot them down now. I need notes, so I have to have notes so I know where I'm going, what I'm talking about. And if you can't think of 3 to 5, that's okay. 1 or 2 is fine, or if you've got a list of 10, also great. Nobody's checking up on you here, so they don't have to be perfect. They also don't have to be reasonable, is the other thing, right? So don't block yourself by thinking, oh, I can't get these things. If they're what you want right now, just write them down. Another 15 seconds or so. Okay. So whatever you've got is perfect. There is no right or wrong here, as I said. I just want you to look at that list and just circle 1 or 2, the 1 or 2 that right now you feel really drawn to. So it might be, I think for a lot of us, it might be, I want to be able to work different locations, or it might be I want to be able to work in silence, or I might be able to want to work with other people, whatever it is, just the one or two that you are really drawn to right now. And first things first, once you've got those circled, is I just want you to acknowledge that that is what right now you really want. And the reason that we do this is because a lot of the time we have a desire or a need for something, and then we go, oh, I can't have it. I can't get it, or it's not going to work, or it won't work for other people, or right now there's the government telling me I can't have it, whatever it is. But it's important that we acknowledge the desire. It's important that we acknowledge the want for it. So the way I like to do this, and I should have warned you at the beginning of this webinar, I am a total hippie. It is going to get a bit hippie on here. The way I like to do this is to just put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath in and out, and just acknowledge, right now, I really want whatever it is you want. You can say that out loud, say it in your head. I really want. It's quite a nice little practice to do. I quite like to do that sometimes at the beginning of the morning. Just note down 3 to 5 things I really want that morning. Don't have to be things I can have. It can be unrealistic. But just acknowledging the desire. And we kind of step away from that sometimes because we think, well, if I can't have it, it's just going to make me sad, wanting it but not being able to have it. Actually not. If you just acknowledge the desire, acknowledge that you want it, I think you'll find that it's honest. You can become you come onto a calmer plane with it. You feel more at peace with it. So now that you've acknowledged this is what you really want, I want you to think about a way that you can have it in some way, shape, or form in your working life. And I will give you an example of this. So when I started freelancing, I dedicated kind of Mondays to pitching. So on Mondays, I would sit down, I'd be like, right, I'm going to come up with 3 pitches that I'm going to send to 3 different publications, and I'm going to do that every single Monday. And I did it for a couple of weeks, and then it started to become one of those things that I felt really like, I hate this is horrible, it makes me feel really insecure, makes me feel really worried about myself, not enjoying it at all. And so eventually I sort of looked at it and I was like, what am I really not enjoying here? And I realized that what I was really not enjoying was that I was sat there by myself trying to come up with these pitches, and I didn't have anyone to just sense check them to. And when I'd been working in an office, I would have gone around the corner to my friend Kate's desk and sat down with Kate and said, I've got this idea, what do you think of it? And just got a little bit of feedback. And what I really needed, I realized at that point, what I really wanted was somebody to give me some feedback. But obviously, I couldn't, because I was working from home. I mean, I could ask the dog, but she wasn't that great on the feedback. And I felt a bit awkward. I was like, I can't just pick up the phone to people and be like, can you tell me what I think? So what I did was that I chatted to a couple of my other friends who freelance, and I said, this is how I'm feeling. They said, oh, me too. Top tip, if you're feeling a certain way, other people almost certainly feeling that way. And we set up a WhatsApp group for it. So we set up a WhatsApp group which simply says, it's like a pitch consultancy, and one of us will throw an idea and they'll be like, what do you think? And we will feedback, and we'll give kind of honest but supportive feedback. And it's not a detailed analysis. It's not going to take more than 5 minutes of anyone's time. It's not going to require too much, but it's just I almost don't even need the feedback. I just need to do the act of asking someone and feeling reassured by that. So looking at your list of what you want and what you need in your working life right now, how can you get a couple of those met? And think about, if you're just thinking, well, what I really want is to be able to go into my office at 9 o'clock every day. Right now, probably not possible. But what you can do is say, I'm going to create a zone at work that is my office, and at 9 o'clock every day I sit in that zone. Or if what you really want is to be able to have a cup of coffee with your co-workers without, if you've got kids, without your kids asking for something all day every day, think about, okay, well, how can I create that on a micro level? Can I say, at 11 a.m. this is my 5 minutes, and can I have somebody else watch the kids? If we've got a partner, can we agree that 11 a.m. is when they watch them? Can you agree with your kids, okay, 11 a.m. is the time when I need you to do X, and there's a nice bribe at the end of it? Whatever it is, what do you need and want, and how can you find a workaround? Just take a minute to just jot down some ideas. And as I say, bribery, totally allowed. Being creative, brilliant. Creative responses to problems, always great. How can you get one or two of these needs met? Have a little think. And if you want to put any in the chat, please do. Julia said, "Needs having my own office, a real desire having my own office." Julia, I feel you. Me too. To be honest with you, like I have a 1-bedroom apartment that is, I mean, to say that it's 1 bedroom is like pushing it. It's an oversized studio. The concept of own office does not exist. So I've actually moved the furniture around a bit, and I've created a corner, which is an office corner. So how can you create that? You can zone it, might be one thing. So actually think about, can I set up a picture on this side, a picture on that side, and it says within this space, that's my office space. Anything like that. Any other ideas that anyone wants to put in the chat, please do. It's always nice to share. So add them along, and if I see them, I'll bring them in. Okay. So, Sanal says she tidies the clutter from my tables. I'm working and plan so I can allocate time periods to get more focus on tasks. Yes, we're going to talk about planning in just a second. Jane said, I'm lucky my conservatories have an office there. It's, absolutely, but also if you have a space that's being used for something else, can you, for a little bit, can you repurpose it? Jane, great point. Zoom, you can set your own background. You can create your own office background on Zoom, or one which is like you underwater or whatever. Julia, if you don't work from home and you work in open space in my workplace, if you don't work from home, think about what makes an office for you. So what are the things that you need around you to feel like, oh, okay, I'm in a working office and space now? Might be technology, might be interior design, it might be simply just like turning the TV screen onto, you can get kind of backgrounds on a TV screen onto an office space. You know, it might be thinking about the sound that you have around you. So you can have this Google on YouTube, but you can actually get office sounds that you can play so it sounds like it's got people around you in the background. Think about what is it that makes that office for you, and how can you be creative? You're not going to be able to replicate it, obviously, 100%, but how can you be creative in bringing some of that into the space? Second thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of working from home is culture. And if you think about it, your office definitely has a culture. It has unspoken rules and agreements that you're pretty much all abiding by, right? So the last time I was in an office, it was very open plan. So there was a culture which was like, if you wanted to have a one-to-one talk, somebody went for a walk around the kind of internal space. There was a culture which was at 11 a.m. everybody basically went for coffee. So the queue for the coffee at 11 a.m. was miles, and like 2 minutes past, it was nobody. But think about the kind of things that created culture. Now, this might be the funny little things, the little quirks, like where you go for your meetings or when you get your coffee, but it's also things like what is the feel and atmosphere, and what are the values of that organization. So it might be that one of the big values in the last place I worked was collaboration. So if you had an idea for a project, it was much more likely to go further if you could bring 3 or 4 people in on it. Collaboration, a big value. It might be that there was a value of trying new things. So actually, if somebody tries something, everybody gets very excited about it. Even if long term doesn't really work out, they like a new project, so they get excited. Might be that there's a value of communication. So that actually it's really important to talk or to pass on information or to make sure that people are kept in the loop. So thinking about the values of your organization. Now, when we're working in big teams, what that means is there's a kind of team values. But what I want you to think about today is what are your workplace values? So what are the things that you value and want in your working life right now? So again, take your pen and a piece of paper. We're going to make a short list or a long list. Long list is great. And I want you to write down some things that you would consider to be your own personal values. And I will give you a definition of values. So we say that values are things that we care about that you can't put in a wheelbarrow. They generally don't have physical form, but they are things that are important to you. So for me, some strong values would be around freedom. You can imagine how well that's doing right now. Freedom, kindness, security, humour. Those are some of my core values. So what are your core values? And if you can get to a list of 10, that would be great. Start writing now. I'm going to keep chatting, give you a couple of minutes to do this. But if you can come up with 10 core values, things that are important to you, that when you have them in your life, you feel happier. And right now, it doesn't matter if they're esoteric values, that's okay. Esoteric, is that the right word? It's not the right word. Trying to think what the word was I meant. I basically mean, it doesn't matter if you can't pin them down right now. That's fine. If you're sort of a bit vague and you kind of know that, oh, it's a big word, I don't really know what I mean by it, that's fine. Just stick it down anyway. We'll have some time to think about what they all mean. But what are the values that you want in your working life right now? And they might not be the same ones that you have in your working team. They might not be the same ones that you would have under, in quotes, normal circumstances. But what do you want in your working life right now? If you want to pop any in the chat, please do have a look at them. We're going to do very similar to what we did before. So if you can get to kind of at least 5 would be great, up to 10, perfect. Give you another 15 seconds or so. And if anyone wants to put some in the chat as well, please do. You can have a look at how we use those as well. Great. Jane says human interaction. So as value human interaction, so cameras on and showing up visually improves human interaction. I think that's true, definitely. Although we have, I'm sure, all seen the Twitter clip about the guy who was on Zoom naked. Don't do that. But that for you, Jane, might be a really strong value, right? So it might be that human interaction feels much more real and much more intense for you when people have their cameras on. So a simple way of honouring that value is to say, actually, when I send a meeting invite, I'm going to pop in that meeting invite to say, I would love to see all your faces, so do please put your camera on. What we want to do now is that list of values that you've got. Again, just want you to circle 2, maybe 3 that right now you feel really drawn to. Okay, the ones that right now are popping up for you. They can change in the future, that's fine. Just the ones that you would like in your working life right now. And again, we're just going to think about how you can get some of those values met. So, for example, if, like me, you have a value of freedom, it can feel like really hard to have freedom in your life, and particularly in your working life right now. But what you can do is you can say, do I want to stick to a schedule, or would I like to have a looser pattern to my working day? So what I do is I create a schedule each morning for my day, but I don't punish myself if I don't stick to it, because I know that for me, I need a little bit of freedom around a schedule. I need a schedule to start doing stuff, but then I need some freedom around it to feel like I still have an element of choice in the matter. Is kindness a value for you? If it is, then you can say, right, I'm going to choose to respond to every slightly difficult email I get from a place of kindness. I'm going to ask, if I was being kind to this person, what would I say back to them? Is family a value for you that you've circled right now? Then actually it's okay to say, do you know what? Right now I'm going to be clear that my working life has to come second to family. And how am I going to communicate that to the people that I work with? How am I going to show up for that? Also, I would say if that you are somebody who is living alone right now and you have family as a value, that is okay. I think there's been a lot of talk about mothers in particular, mothers and fathers working from home with children. And I think when we prioritize one group too much, we can create resentment. And actually, it's okay to say that if you are living by yourself, but you really want to spend time with your family, you want to prioritize calls with them, you want to prioritize checking in on them, that is okay too, right? Just as we have to allow it for parents with children, and we would allow it, we would think that was totally normal, in fact. So we need to allow it for people who have different family setups. So now hopefully you should have an idea of a couple of things that you need, physical things that you need or desires that you have that you would like to be met for your working life, and a few values that you want to show up and bring to your working life as well. And where I want us to go now is just to finish on that values piece, I think it's really great if you can communicate some of these to the people that you work with. You don't have to, but my suggestion is if you are saying, actually, for the next couple of weeks, I want to try and work in a way that is, or that prioritizes humor, right? So it's a very intense situation. I'm feeling very stressed by it. So I want to work in a way that prioritizes humor and lightness. Tell your team that. Be honest with them. Have a call and chat with them. Do this exercise with them. Say, what are some of the values that you feel really strongly you need in your life now, and how are you going to be bringing them to work at the moment, so that we all know. Because one of the things that is difficult when we're all working in our own spaces is that we don't have that place to come together and share these things. So I would put communication as a really strong value for me, and I would say that actually it's then my responsibility to set up calls with my team just to check in, not to talk about anything in particular, just to say, let's have a morning coffee and a chat as we would do anyway. You know, there's this idea that because we're working from home, we have to be very productive. It's okay to say, actually, if we're being honest, if we were in the office right now, we would not be working that hard. We'd be on a coffee break. So set up your call and have that coffee break with your team and talk to them about what is some of the stuff that they need, what they want in their working life right now, and what are some of the values that they really want to honor in this period. And it's okay if those values seem to clash, because I promise you that actually you will find a way to work them together, and underneath what we all really want is pretty much the same thing. We want security and safety, peace, for ourselves and others to be well. You know, all of those values will come back to that same goal. They just might look a bit different. But if we communicate them and we tell people about them, we're instantly minimizing the chance of conflict. So my final thing that I wanted to talk about is, and I'm going to go over my time a little bit, but that's okay. We will get to Q&A, I promise. Final thing I wanted to talk about is prioritizing your own mental health when you work from home and you are by yourself. And this is really, really important. So part of it is thinking about, so we talked about what do I need and what values do I need to honor, but it's also about being in touch with our own bodies and being able to monitor and understand what is going on in our body as it is happening. So there's a lovely saying which we all like, which is we need to trust our gut. Trust our gut. And a friend of mine who suffers from very bad anxiety says, no, that's completely ridiculous. She's like, if I trusted my gut at all times, I'd be in a constant state of fear. I can't do that. So I think it's not about trust your gut, but I do think it is about trust your body and bring some attention and understanding back to your body. Because most of the time when we are finding it hard to work from home, what's happened is that our brain is scattered. It's scattered, it's focusing on 1,001 things, it's constantly being distracted. And what we need to do is bring it back to the day-to-day and bring it back to the present moment. So we're going to do that very quickly and calmly. Those two things don't really go together. You know what I mean. We're going to do that now. And if you've got kids with you, I would say see if you can get them involved in this bit. Okay, set them a bit of a challenge, see how long they can last. Got more than one kid, get them to compete against each other. One who could do it for the longest, they're the winner, etc., etc. So, first of all, if you're sat down, I want you to get comfortable. Put your feet on the floor. Very important. Put your feet on the floor. Uncross your legs. Uncross your arms. Get some space, and just close your eyes. I'm gonna keep mine open so I know what I'm doing. But everyone else, close your eyes. And I just want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And one more in through your nose and out through your mouth. And third and final time in through your nose and out through your mouth. And now I want you, without moving any other part of your body, to take your attention down to your toes and just wiggle your toes. Like you're doing scales on a piano with them. So starting with your small toe, pressing that into the ground, and the one next to it, and the one next to it, so on and so forth, all the way down to your big toe, and then back again. And just do that a couple of times. And now I want you to keep your toes completely still and see if you can lift up the arches of your feet. Not moving anything else, just lifting the arches of your feet. Can you do it? Not moving your toes, not moving anything else. Put your attention on them, really squeeze, so you can get them off the ground. And then just relaxing them. And now going to your calves, and I want you to imagine that you are in a bodybuilding competition almost. And I want you to put all your attention on your calves and squeeze them. Try and make them as tight as possible. Squeeze, not moving anything else, just your calves. And then release them. And do it again. Squeeze your calves tight as you can. All your attention on them. And release. And now I want you to take your attention to your thighs. And I just want you to see if you can feel the muscle. Put your hands on them and see if you can feel the muscle move under your hands. Can you make it pop up and down? Just see if you can move them. Again, not moving any other part of your body. Keeping still and calm. And now I want you to take your attention to your hips and pelvis. And this time we're going to move it, but with our breath. So taking a deep breath in. And as you breathe in, I want you to send the breath down and see if you can make your hips and pelvis move out. Can you expand them? Put all your attention, see if you can. And then as you breathe out, can you contract them? Sorry, I didn't get it quite right. So as you breathe in, can you expand your hips and pelvis? Send your breath there. And as you breathe out, contract them. And now to your stomach, same thing. As you breathe in, expand it. And as you breathe out, contract it. And just notice what happens in your body as you do that. Notice how it feels. Put all your attention on your stomach right now. And if any little voice pops into your head, if you get any judgment, any thoughts about your stomach right now, that's okay. Just hear them and say thank you and moving on. And now take your attention to your ribs. You want to put your hands on your ribs, you can. And the same thing, as you breathe in, you're going to try and push your ribs out. And as you breathe out, come back in again. Breathe in, feel your ribs push out. And as you breathe out, feel them come back in again. Take your hands to your shoulders. And as you breathe in, bring your shoulders up to your ears. And as you breathe out, drop them down. Drop them down with some force. See how hard you can go. Breathe in, bring your shoulders up. Out, drop them down. And now placing your hands on your heart. Breathe into your heart and out. And just focusing on very gentle expansion as you breathe in, and gentle expansion, contraction rather, as you breathe out. I'm just going to do 3 deep breaths into your heart. And after you've done those 3 breaths, keeping your hands on your heart, just want you to ask your heart, your body, how do I need to be today? How do I need to be today? Whatever answer you get, that's completely fine. And then just ask your heart, your body, what do I need to do today? What do I need to do today? And again, whatever answer you get, completely fine. And just want you to slowly bring your attention to your breath. So see if you can feel that breath as it goes in through your nose and out through your mouth. And take 3 breaths, just focusing your attention on your breath. Okay. And then just gently bringing your attention back to the here and now. Wiggle your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Maybe just make a note of any answer you got about how do I want to be and what should I do today. And just see if you can be and do those things. And if you feel like you can't stay in that place, that's okay. But remember, you can always just put a hand on your heart, breathe into your heart, do that 3 times, and out. And remind yourself of what your body wants you to be, what your body wants you to do. Because in times of stress, our bodies generally are a more reliable source of information than our brains. And so I urge you this week, next week, in the coming months, make this a practice to go back to your body, to spend some time noticing each part of it, being with it, and then just asking it what it wants for you and seeing if you can honor that. Okay. I'm aware that I've only left a little bit of time for questions, but like I said, I love question and answer, so please feel free to ask me anything you like. You can pop it in the chat box, you can pop it in the Q&A box. Very happy to answer all questions. Also, just while waiting for anyone to type anything they want to type, so if this has been useful to you, I've done like a very quick overview today of how you can identify what you need to work from home yourself successfully, how you can identify some key values that you bring to your work and to your teams to create culture, and also how we can manage our own stress and reality of our attention spans not being as good as they are right now. And so those three things, but if you want them in more depth, please do feel free to get in contact with me. Very happy to talk about that. Very happy to talk in more depth about how they work and what else we can do. Also, just a little bit of promo for me. I'm a qualified coach, so if you want to come coach me, happy to do that. And if there's anything I can do for your teams, also please do send me a little email. Ella says, do you have any advice for the managers of people who might be isolating alone and how they can help to spot loneliness and isolation? So the first thing I would say is don't feel that it is on you as a manager to have to spot your team's loneliness. Right? It's a beautiful thing to want to do, and I can only imagine that being managed by you is a delight because of that. But also know that there's already a lot of pressure on us all at the moment, and we can be there for people, but we don't have to be entirely responsible for them. So that's the first thing. Don't make other people's well-being your responsibility. That said, some key things to spot if you're worried about somebody: communication levels. So has somebody who regularly sends you email updates, regularly drops around the side of your desk to say hello to you, have you just not heard from them whilst they've been working from home? They're a good person to check in on. Note just kind of how people, you can really see people's use of language and punctuation in email. So note if somebody's emails are usually 6 paragraphs and now they're a couple of lines, what's going on there? And vice versa, they're usually a couple of lines and now they're 6 paragraphs, what's happening? Just look for those differences in behavior that if you know your team well, you might be able to see, and check in on them. Say, shall we have a Zoom call? Shall we pick up the phone and talk to each other? I do a lot of my coaching on the phone because actually sometimes when you can't see someone, it allows you to be very open with them. So going back to an old school phone call is fine. Think about, is there budget within your company to be able to send people little things, to be able to send them little gifts, to be able to send them a bar of chocolate or some flowers, something just saying, just because we're not in the office doesn't mean we're not thinking of you. The other thing is to think about how tech can help you here. So can you set up a WhatsApp group specifically for your team, which is to talk about stuff that is not work related? So can you have like a WhatsApp which is about work issues, but also can you have a WhatsApp which is about let's check in, let's send funny memes, let's just see how we're all doing each morning, let's have a 5-minute check-in at the end of the week, let's, whatever it is, think about that. Think about how you can use tech to do things like team pub quizzes. Can you have weekly Zoom calls? Can you do things which are going to bring you together as a team that maybe are not necessarily about work, okay? So I think those would be my tips on spotting isolation and loneliness. And then my other tip is, if you are going to do a team WhatsApp, team Zoom call about work or about anything else, I really, really advise you to do 2 things. So the first thing is to set up at the beginning a kind of container for the call. So what are we going to talk about on this call? Is there anything that anyone needs to be fully present for this call? So if anybody's got something that's going to distract them, or they've got time issues or whatever, they can raise it there and then. Is there anything that as a team we want to, how do we want to be on this call? So do we want to be upbeat? Do we want to be honest? What are some of those words? Like, set up the container for it so it's really clear. And the other thing to do is do a kind of a small check-in at the beginning. So you can do this check-in in some format. You can say, in 1 word, everyone, how are you feeling today? 1 word. In 1 sentence, everyone, how are you feeling today? Everyone, in 1 minute, how are you feeling today? A container for that, so that we don't get somebody going on for 20 minutes and the whole meeting is derailed, but still a space to actually talk about what's going on with them and how they feel about today. Louise says, not a question, but thanks for validating my lack of focus and my feelings. That in itself helps a lot. You're very welcome, Louise. Trust me, even the most productive freelancers who've been doing this for years are not working at the same level that they usually are. I, at the moment, am basically saying if I do about half a day's worth of work, that feels good for me. That's okay. I actually have structured into my schedule that I write each day, free time. I basically assume that I'm not going to be doing a lot of work in the afternoons because my focus is shot. My focus isn't great in the afternoon anyway. At the moment, it's completely gone. So that is okay. There's a great thing going around Twitter. I think I retweeted at some point. You go check it out. But is the concept of what we're all experiencing right now, which is kind of global trauma. So trauma is a big word, and we think we have to go through something horrendous for trauma, but actually, even if you are sitting safely at home and nothing has happened to you or anyone you love, and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, your body is still experiencing that as trauma. So your body is going to have a trauma response to it. And trauma response, generally we consider fight, flight. Those are the two that are most talked about. So if you're constantly angry with people, if you're picking fights with your other half all the time, this is why, don't worry. Or if you're just like, I want to shut down and not see anything, that's also why. Two other really common trauma responses, freeze and friend. So freeze is the shutdown. So freeze is like, okay, I'm just going to go to bed and I'm exhausted and I'm tired and I can't cope with anything. And I think a lot of us are feeling that freeze at the moment. And then friend is, how can I be nice to this person? How can I make it better? So see a lot of people who've gone into help mode, and it's great if you have, also totally fine if you haven't. Actually, that help mode is just a response to trauma. So whatever you're feeling right now, all totally valid. Claire says, hi, I had to take a call and miss the section on values. Would it be okay to pick up with you offline about that bit? And if so, what's the best way to contact you? Great question, Claire. Yes, totally fine. Pick up with me whenever you like. You can find me on all social media at Harriet Minter, or you can also email me, harriet.minter@gmail.com, because I've been freelancing for 4 years and haven't got around to getting a proper email address yet. So it's very straightforward, harriet.minter@gmail.com. Anonymous says, how do you deal with people who want constant video check-ins, but you feel uncomfortable and pressurized to do so? Great question. So first thing is to think about what I talked about as that conflict of values. So they probably have a value which is around check-in and presence. So they'll feel really reassured if they can see you, they can hear you, they know that you're there. That will be very reassuring for them. And so what they're trying to do with requesting constant video check-ins is essentially make themselves feel comfortable and lower their own stress levels. And there's an element of human kindness here, which says, actually, okay, I appreciate that in order for this person to feel less stressed, I can show up for them and say, okay, we can have a video call. However, then there's also the flip of that, which is how do you manage your own stress levels? And that is about, fabulous word, boundaries. Boundaries, as I like to say, not just for the bedroom, for everyone. So boundaries, essentially, we're saying is really, what is the stuff that you can do and it's not going to have a big impact on you? What is the stuff that you can do that might have an impact on you, and then how do you reset after that impact? And what is the stuff that you cannot do because the impact on you will be too great? And I think it's going back to this person and saying, really happy to do a check-in, but I've got to be honest with you, constant video check-ins, I'm finding them really stressful, and there's a lot going on right now, so I have to protect my own mental health. Can we do once a day, once a week, whatever it is that feels open to you? So, and I always like to say that I assume that everyone comes from a good place. So I will assume that this person requesting constant video calls is doing so because they want to make everyone feel included, because they think that if this helps their stress levels, it will help everybody else's, etc. So you have to go back and clearly communicate that actually for you, what you need is this. And human beings are very simple. If we feel that we can help someone, if we feel that we can do something good for someone, generally we want to do it. So if you say to this person, actually, for my mental health, the thing that would really help me right now would be to do one video call a day and then check in via email, or to have this time where I just get on quietly with my own work and then I will check in with you here and here. And so there's an element of, if you just go back to them and say, I'm done, this is too stressful, I'm not doing any video calls, you're going to send their stress levels way up here, and the thing they're going to do to manage their stress levels, more video calls, right? So what you want to do is be like, actually, this is what I need, this is what I would like, how does that feel for you? And think about those levels. What's the stuff you can do without any impact? What's the stuff you can do with a manageable level of impact, and what's the stuff that you cannot do? And you do not say yes to any of that stuff. All the stuff you cannot do, that's a no. All the stuff you can do without any impact, that's a yes. And the bit in the middle is, okay, well, how much of that can I say yes to? And then what do I need to do to look after myself afterwards? Snell says, how do you deal with people avoiding as they do not pick up calls when working remotely and you need information urgently and they also ignore emails? Do you two work together? So it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same, but on the flip, it's clear communication. I need this by this time. Can you do that? Yes or no, please confirm. And if it's a no, what can you do? And by when? And what I do with things like this is I say, I'm really clear about it, and I say, I need this because I've got this coming up, or I've got to manage this, or I've got to do X, Y, and Z. Is this going to be possible for you? And if not, can you let me know what is possible? So there's a really subtle thing I did there, which is I didn't say, and if it's not possible, can you let me know why not? Because the word why is very triggering for most of us, and we will go into complete panic about it, and we'll be like, oh my God, they're questioning me, they're putting me on the spot, why are they doing this? But if we say, actually, if you can't do this, please let me know what you can do, what you're then doing is saying, I'm assuming there is bandwidth here for something. And if there isn't, you need to tell me, but this is an open discussion. This isn't a yes, no, it is an open discussion. And this is a really important management point as well, which is, when we just manage people where we go, I need this by this time done, what we're not doing is allowing them to feed into that, because actually they might know that there's a very good reason why that can't happen. And so we have to come back to them and say, okay, let's create this an open discussion. I need this by this date for this reason. Let me know if that works for you and what you are going to do when. Keep the questions as open as possible. The extreme of this is if they are ignoring all your emails, they're not picking up your calls, you need to ask them why. So this is the why. This is the moment where I go, hang on, I've called you X times this week and I've emailed you and I haven't heard back. Are you okay? Right? Like, fundamentally, if somebody is this, and I'm assuming that this person has been a relatively reliable employee up to this point, if they've now become a completely unreliable employee, what's going on? What's going on that you do not know about? Are they sick? Is someone they love sick? Are they having a complete kind of mental health breakdown because of this? What is going on with them? And put your investigative hat on. Assume that people are coming from good places. Assume that they want to do the best possible job, and see where you get to them. Now, if you know this person is unreliable and has not been a good employee and is now just showing they're not a good employee when they're not in the office, this is a bigger management question, okay? And and I say this when I talk about working from home pre-coronavirus, before, when it was an option, and I would say to people, working from home is something we should all be able to do, and they would say, yeah, but what if I have people that I can't rely on to get the work done? And my response to that is, if you have people that you can't rely on to get the work done, then they're probably not somebody you want to be employing generally. So think about this person. Has this person been reliable and a great employee up until this point? Because if they have, there's something else going on here and you need to put your investigative hat on and find out what it is. And if it is that actually they've never been reliable, they've never been a great employee, and they're just showing all the usual colours that they show the rest of the time now, then you need to think about it as a wider management issue. Okay, I think that is all the questions. If there's anything else, please do get in contact. I love talking to people. You can find me, as I said, on all social media at Harriet Minter, or you can email me harriet.minter@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening to me. It has been lovely being here with you all today. Anything else you need, please do get in touch. Thank you for your time and patience. Have a wonderful day.